Hello and welcome again. I'm Manuel Franco Arias and I'm going to talk about interruptions, all of these procedures that we use implementing with Arduino. There we have some generality about the interruptions. For instance, in the left column I'm showing you how the name of the board, the Arduino and on the right hand side we can see all the digital pins useful for the interruptions. In this practice, I'm going to talk about and to use the Arduino Nano. In this case, the digital pins are the number 2 and 3, and later I'm going to use the Arduino Mega. And for this device, we can use the digital pins 2, 3, 18, 19, 20, and 21. When we use the interruptions, here is the main function that we use. The function is called attach interrupt. This function does need three arguments. So in the syntax, in the first case, we see that the first argument is called a digital pin to interrupt. In this case, we place the pin number where we read the pin. Secondly is the ISR, and finally is the mode. The ISR means the function that will be called when the interruption is detected. The well, for mode we have a low, a change, a rising, and falling. In low, the interruption is triggered whenever the pin is going to low. For change, the interrupt detects a change between 0 and 5 or 5 to 0. For rising, it goes when the digital pin reads a value of 0, then change to 5, which means change to 0 to 1. And falling is the opposite, when the read goes from high to low. Finally, we have the high mode. This triggers the interrupt whenever the pin is high. Here we have an example code. First, we declare the variables. So I'm using LED pin, which is the pin number 13, and this is a LED included in the Arduino board. Then I declare the interrupt pin as number 2, so we can use this will be our digital pin to interrupt. Then I declare a state to low, so I'm going to use the state to change the state of a LED. It will be changed to high, then to low, then to high, whether the interruption appears. Here we have the setup. For setup I declare the LED pin as an output, first line. Second line I declare the interrupt pin as an input pull up, which means I'm going to capture whatever is happening in the pin to interrupt. And finally I use the attach interrupt function. So as you can see, I use digital pin to interrupt, and between brackets I'm placing the interrupt pin. In this case is pin number 2. My function, the ISR, as you remember I said before, in this case is called blink. You can see once the void loop is finished, I start a new void. It's called void blink between brackets after blink. And in this is all the function that will be called once the interrupt occurs. Well, what kind of interrupt I'm using? In this case I'm going to work with change. So wherever change from 0 to 5 and to 5 and from 5 to 0 will be detected and will change the state in this case. In my void loop I just write in LED pin number 13 whatever the state is. So if we imagine the circuit, you won't need any more devices or elements, just merely with the Arduino you can work with. So whenever the interrupt pin detects a change from 0 to 5 and 5 to 0, immediately the blink line is called. Once the blink line is coded, I change the state from to the opposite, so which means I denied the value of state. Here we have a setup using the Arduino Nano. So we can see here LCD display. We can see two buttons to interrupt. You can see here a LED and the Arduino Nano board. So all the connections that are coming from the Arduino to LCD, we have already explained this in a previous video, so you can check that video if you want. This is the code that was implemented with the configuration. So I have to include the library for Arduino for liquid crystal. So it's just the first line. I define the LCD display pins RS, E, D4 to 7, so 7, A, 9, and 10 to 12. I declare a variable, call it output in low. I declare EI as 0, then I start my setup. The first 5 lines are just going to be printed in the LCD. So I just declare the size of the LCD, I set the cursor in the first position, 0, 0. Then I will print this text, circuit digest. Then I print in the second line the Arduino interrupt. After I delay, I declare the digital pin number 13 as an output, and I declare two functions for the interruption. So the first one calls the pin number 2 when this button is pressed and the change goes from 0 to 5, just 0 to 5, as this is what rising means. It we call the button press 1 function. Yep, is after the void loop. Afterwards I declare the second interrupt, so it's all kind of the same, but I changed the name, button press 2, and I declare this for pin number 3. Yep. So I'm going to show you again the connections, so you can see the interrupts are going to number 2 and number 3. Well, once this occurs, what will happen is that I change the output. For instance, if we go to 0, then I print in the LCD the interrupt number 1 or interrupt number 2 whenever the button presses was the number 2. Here I have some activity proposed for you to work. So the first one is to design and need to implement a circuit that generates a visual alarm when someone triggers a signal. So using either the interruption activity or not necessarily working with the interruptions, please try to do this. Secondly, I ask you to describe briefly the effect of an interruption. And finally, as the proposed activity, I want you guys to design a circuit that has 5 LEDs. The circuit has to turn each LED after the other for 200 milliseconds. Then, if a person press a button and the LED that was turned on was the number 3, what will happen is to reduce this flashing light. It will reduce it by 30 milliseconds. For instance, in the first case, if the LED number 3 was on and you press the button, then the next LED will turn on just for 170 milliseconds, 140, 110, and so on. If the duration falls under 50 milliseconds, the time goes up again to 200 milliseconds and will be start to reduce if the button is pressed when the LED number 3 was active. Well, here's a contact of myself. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions or if you have any inquiries, suggestions about this video. My email is mfranco20@unap.edu.co. My Instagram account is mfranco9009 and my Twitter account is @manolofrancoa. Thank you guys for watching this, and I hope to see you again in a comment.